Aloha mai kako. Good morning, everyone. This is the June 4th, 2025 Land Use Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting. It's being held at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center in the Haynes Room, number 1, Cameron Way, Kahului, Hawaii. This meeting is open to the public. Court reporting transcriptions are being done from the Zoom recording of today's meeting. For all meeting participants, I'd like to, stress the importance of speaking slowly, clearly, and directly into your microphone. And each time before speaking, please state your name and identify yourself for the record. This is a hybrid meeting, and please be aware that all meeting participants are being recorded on the digital record of the Zoom meeting, which will be posted on YouTube and it will be used for court reporting purposes. So your continued participation is your implied consent to be part of the public record of this event. If you do not wish to be part of the public record of this event, you should exit the meeting now. I'll also share that from time to time, we will be taking breaks. Normally every hour we'll take a break of 5 to 10 minutes. And when specifically, we will be taking a break at lunchtime at 12 o'clock sharp. And it will be for 1 hour because there's no food allowed on premises and we will need to move from premises to get lunch for those who wish it. So just plan accordingly. I will call for a lunch break at or slightly before 12 noon, and it will last 1 hour. So my name is Dan Giovanni, and I have the pleasure to serve as the LUC chair. We currently have 9 seated commissioners. Along with me today are Commissioner Brian Lee, Commissioner Mel Kahele, and Commissioner Kuiko Kamakea Ohelo from the island of Oahu. Commissioner Bruce U'u is from Maui, and Commissioner Miles Miyasato is from Hawaii Island. Incoming today, but having missed her connecting flight, is Commissioner Nancy Carr Smith. She's expected to join us at approximately 10:30 this morning. Absent today are Commissioner Ken Hayashida from Oahu and Commissioner Michael Yamane from the island of Kauai. Also in attendance are the LUC Executive Officer Daniel Orendenker, LUC Chief Planner Scott Derrickson, LUC Staff Planner Martina Segura, LUC Chief Clerk Ariana Kwan, and LUC Attorney General Miranda Steed. Again, court reporting transcriptions are being done from the Zoom recording of today's meeting. The first agenda item is docket for AMFAC Property Investment Corp. And HHFDC. This is number A92-636. Sorry about that. This will be a discussion and action, if necessary, on the action as to the status and progress report concerning compliance with the 10th Amendment to the Land Use Commission Special Use Permit and Decision Order issued December 4th in 2009. At this time, I'd like the parties to identify themselves for the record, starting with the petitioner. Please include any anticipated witnesses and introduce them at this time.
Good morning. My name is Diane Ewan Praywell. I'm with the law firm of Schneider, Tanaka, Radovich, Andrew Tanaka. We are counsel for co-petitioner Ka'anapali Land Management Corp., which we sometimes refer to as KLM or KMLC. And I'd also like to introduce to you representatives of KMLC who are here in person and virtually. I'd like to start with Margaret Genesee, who is here by Zoom.
Will Ms. Genesee be providing testimony today?
Yes, I will be.
Are you an attorney?
No, I am not.
I'd like to swear you in now just to get that on the record. So do you, excuse me, do you swear that the testimony that you would provide to the commission today will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please
Yeah.
proceed with your additional introductions.
We also have,
Just real quick, I wanted to add, so I'm Margaret Genesee, and I am the Managing Director of Kaanapali Land Management Corp., and I've been with the company since 2019.
Thank you.
we also have Mr. Jeff Rubucchio.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Rubucchio. I'm a project manager with Kaanapali Land. I've been associated with the company for about 18 years.
Are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
Do you swear the testimony you may give to the commission today will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, we have Mr. Chad Fukunaga of Kaanapali Land Management Corp.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chad Fukunaga. I'm a project manager at Kaanapali Land Management Corp., and I've been with the company for about 20 years now. I am not an attorney.
Mr. Fukunaga, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give today will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
We also have here representatives of Hawaii Water Service Company.
Are they on Zoom?
They're here
Oh, they're here?
in person.
Can you introduce them, please?
Aloha, Jeff Folks, General Manager of Hawaii Water Service.
Thank you, Mr. Waltz. Are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
Do you swear the testimony you may give today will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good morning, Chair. My name is Julian Gandara with Hawaii Water Service Company, Engineering Manager. I'm not an attorney.
Mr. Ndara, do you swear the testimony you may give today will be the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
That's all for co-petitioner KMLC.
Okay. Any other co-petitioner?
Hello and good morning, Commissioners. Randy Chu, Development Branch Manager at HHFDC.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. And are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
Do you swear the testimony you may give today will be the truth?
Yes.
Anybody with you today who may testify?
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stan Fujimoto, Project Manager with HHFDC.
Mr. Fujimoto, are you an attorney?
No.
Do you swear the testimony you will give today will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody else with your group?
No, only the two of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the room representing the petitioner or co-petitioner? Okay, let's go to the OPSD to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Allison Kato, Deputy Attorney General for the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Also here with me is Aaron Sotogawa, OPSD Planner. Representatives from CWRM are also attending virtually. Kira Kahahane, Deputy Director, and Katie Roth, Hydrologic Planning Program Manager.
So do you anticipate they will all be testifying?
I believe the Deputy Director will be testifying.
Can I swear him in, please?
She's here virtually.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
Morning, Kira Kahahane, Deputy Director for the Commission on Water Resource Management. I am an attorney, but I'm not here in my capacity as one.
I'm going to swear you in just for completeness, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Do you swear that your testimony you give today to the commission will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Kato. Anybody else?
No one else, thank you.
Thank you. Is the city and county here today? County of Maui.
Good morning, Chair. This is Andrew Nelson from the Department of the Corporation Counsel. With me today is Director Kate Blystone of the Planning Department and Danny Diaz, current Division Administrator. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me swear those two people in. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Kate Blystone, Planning Director.
Ms. Blackstone, do you swear the testimony you give today will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. And the other person?
Good morning, Commissioners. Danny Diaz, Planning Program Administrator for the County of Maui.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Do you swear the testimony you give today will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. I think that covers everyone. Did I miss anyone, please, that intends to testify today, other than public testimony? Okay, thank you very much. This will be a discussion and action, if necessary, on progress, as I stated previously. At this time, I'd like to discuss potential disclosures and conflicts of interest. In accordance with HRS 8414, commissioners are not allowed, to take any official action affecting a business in which they have a member or a family family member has a financial interest. They must therefore recuse themselves from this matter if there's any benefit, monetary or otherwise, by themselves or members of their family. Also, in accordance with legal and ethical standards, commissioners are to disclose any relationship, business, or special, which is social or otherwise, that they may have with the petitioner or its representatives or any other parties to this proceeding that may give rise to an allegation of impropriety. Commissioners, do any of you have a conflict of interest or disclosure to disclose to the commission at this time? I see none. So let me briefly, we'll proceed and let me briefly explain the procedure for today. First, I will recognize written public testimony that has been submitted on this matter. Next, I will call for members of the public who wish to provide oral testimony on this matter. Then the staff planner will present a briefing on their status report that has been posted publicly for this docket. Next, the petitioner will be called upon to provide their status report. The chair will then call on the parties, the County Planning Department, HHFDC, OPSD, for comments on the status report. Petitioners will then be allowed to respond to the comments made by the parties. The commissioners will also have opportunities to ask questions of the parties at the conclusion of each of their presentation or round of comments. Then I will open the floor to the public for a second time for oral testimony on this matter. And then finally, the commission will enter deliberations, which will be public, regarding the status report and decide if any action is necessary. And again, I'm going to remind you that I will be taking breaks, nominally 5 to 10 minutes per hour. And I will be calling for a lunch break at exactly noon or shortly before. Do any of the parties have any comments or objections to the procedure? Seeing none, we'll proceed. As of today's agenda, please be informed that all relevant records and documents pertaining to this agenda item, to this matter, can be accessed for review at the LUC website. Public testimony. Members of the public, again, please be reminded that the commission will not be making changes to the special permit that has already been issued. Rather, the commission is interested in learning about the current state of activities related to this docket, including compliance with conditions, and then the commission will consider whether action is necessary. At this time, I'd like to recognize written public testimony that's been submitted in this matter. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony submitted on this matter?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Kwan, are any members of the public informed you that they'd like to testify orally today at this hearing on this matter.
Sorry, Chair, I stand corrected. We did receive one written testimony from Seaworm prior to this meeting that has been posted to the website,
And it has been posted.
and it has been
Okay,
posted.
let's let the record show that
Sorry about that.
correction. Now, is there anybody in attendance that'd like to provide oral testimony?
Seeing none in the room, Chair, and seeing nobody using the Q&A feature on the Zoom.
Then we'll proceed with presentations. First, I'd like to call on Ms. Segura from LUC staff to provide a oral summary of their staff report.
Good morning. This is Martina Segura for the record. The staff report was signed and posted on May 30th, and the staff report includes up-to-date information, which includes the March 5th OPSD letter with the Seaworm Communications, the May 27th petitioner comment letter, and the May 28th Seaworm public testimony / comments on the petition. The status report was scheduled to provide parties the opportunity to clarify representations made in the 2024 status report and subsequent submittals and letters, so we get a clear information on the record.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions on the status report? Seeing none. We'll now turn to the petitioner. Which of you will be going first, I guess? And could you state your name again for the record, please?
Sure, it's Diane Praywell.
Praywell.
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Praywell, can you give us an idea of the length of your presentation?
I think around 15 to 20 minutes.
That'd be great. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. In response to the call for this status report, the focus of our prepared discussion will be on matters relating to a new water use permit for the portion of the petition area that is Mauka of the alignment of the future Lahaina bypass highway. We refer to it commonly as Pu'ukali'i Mauka or simply Mauka. It's comprised of about 240 acres. As reported in KMLC's May 8th, 2024 status report to the Commission and in KMLC's 2023 annual report to the Commission, substantial progress has been made in the development of Mauka. Further development, however, has been paused due to uncertainties relating to the availability of of potable water under the new framework of new use water permits that has been implemented by Seaworm. Mauka is within the service area of Hawaii Water Service Company. Hawaii Water Service Company could be or would be a potable water service provider for Mauka. As such, application for a new water use permit for potable water service provided by Hawaii Water Service would normally be made by Hawaii Water Service as the service provider. It would not necessarily be made by KMLC. It is KMLC's understanding, based on discussions with Hawaii Water Service, that an application for a new water use permit for Mauka has not yet been filed. And as we mentioned earlier, representatives of Hawaii Water Service are here today to answer any questions that may arise with respect to that. At the time of KMLC's May 2024 status report, and at the time of submittal of KMLC's 2023 annual report, it was understood by KMLC and others in the community that under Seaworm's designation of the Lahaina Aquifer area, sector area, as a ground and surface water management area, it was understood that applications for new water use permits would not be processed until applications for existing water use permits were completed. It is this framework that cast significant uncertainties on the availability and timing of sufficient water for Malka. And it is because of those uncertainties that we think further development of Malka is not likely to incur. The remaining development work could be dependent on the actual source of potable water service. And it also entails investment of substantial upfront costs. It's pretty hard to justify making those substantial investments without certainty or with the uncertainties of the availability and timing of potable water. We want to clarify any perceived misrepresentations that may have been made by KMLC at its May 2024 status report and/or in its 2023 annual report. After receiving the staff report for this status report and after re-reviewing the transcript of the May 2024 status report and the 2023 annual report, we can understand how statements made could have been interpreted to imply that a new water use permit application had been filed. We want to assure you, however, that there was no intent of KMLC to misrepresent that an application had been in fact filed. The point that KMLC wanted to emphasize was that due to uncertainties relating to the new and existing use water permit applications, future development work would not likely occur. And we want to make clear here today that to KMLC's knowledge, a new water use permit for potable water service that could support Malka has not yet been filed. At this time, I want to turn to Margaret Genesee of KMLC, who will provide further information on water permit matters.
Just
Thank you.
before you do that, can I ask you, just for clarity purposes, to describe the development of Malka, what is envisioned if it goes forward,
Sure.
the Malka development, and also identify what you referred to as the upfront investments that could not be made until there's more clarity on the water permit. Please state your name for the record again.
Good morning. This is Jeff Bugio, Kaanapali Land Management. Pukali Malka is a 940 unit residential development with other community elements. School site has been reserved, large parks, community center, and some small village commercial components within. It is 240 acres gross acreage. It is obviously an affordable housing. There's a 51%, I believe, affordable housing component to it. And the second part of your question was the investment made. We are, yeah.
So the second part of my question was there was reference made to investments that that would be upfront, but are not being made because of the uncertainty of the water permit.
I'm not sure if Margaret may want to add to this, but I can say that the investments made to date has been primarily a lot of the planning, engineering, and some permitting work. There is some off-site construction that has been also completed, but nothing on-site yet has been done. So moving forward, it would mean doing a lot of infrastructure work for on-site and making the development parcels available for the project.
I'll go ahead and jump in as well, Jeff.
If
What it
Margaret,
really-
please
Yes.
state your name again.
Yes, Margaret Genesee. And the practical matter here is we are ready to move forward with the on-site infrastructure that is needed in order to prepare the land to build houses. That is a substantial financial investment. And to put that money in the ground today without any clarity on the timing of when or how much water we will get for the community just doesn't make financial sense. I can't, I mean, I think anybody that kind of takes a step back and looks at it would go, okay, we put all this in the ground and it could sit there for 3 years. And that will make it even more challenging to develop the community. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And so now, Ms. Prelo, you may proceed with your prepared presentation.
Actually, I was going to turn it over to Margaret, so we're in step.
Yes. So again, Margaret Genesee. Thank you, Chair Giovanni, commission members and staff for inviting us to the meeting today. Our goal is to provide some background information on what's been happening over the last year plus on the Pucallpa Village Malka project. And as it relates primarily to water, it seems to be that's the main purpose of today's meeting, and to answer any of the questions you have. I just want to say I wish I could have attended in person, but family matters have me on the mainland right now. So I'm glad I could participate via Zoom. I'm also going to make a quick note. I'm going to stop my video. I'm in the middle of a really wicked rain and lightning event, and it's probably best to do that to make sure I keep a good connection, which is basically typical afternoon in Florida. So I'm going to do that now. Okay.
So we'll allow you to go on audio only due to the weather.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. So in August of 2023, KLMC submitted existing use applications to the Commission on Water Resource Management for the non-potable water needs for its agricultural activities. The applications are not related to Pucallpa Malka and are pending review with CWRM. KLMC and others who submitted permits, we were under the impression that CWRM would act on existing use permits first, and then at a point in time when they were further down the line, they would address new use permits. But after the May 8th status report and the submission of the 2023 annual report, we learned that CWRM may process new use applications either concurrently with existing use applications. I don't think there's been any formal communication on how that will work, but we did get the communication that that's something that we could move forward with. At that point in time, we, KLMC, engaged in discussions with Hawaii Water Service on how best to go forward with a new use application for the development of the fully entitled Pucallpa Village Malka. Again, I think it's important to point out it's 940 residential units, various other facilities that Jeff talked about, and 51% of those units qualify under affordable housing. So now, again, there's still some perceived and possibly real limitations on the availability of groundwater in West Maui. And that complicates or limits the options of finding a suitable new source of water. And while KLMC and Hawaii Water Service, we continue to explore kind of the conventional ideas of developing a new well, we are also thinking about there may be some other options that we should look beyond that typical option. We are basically in partnership with Hawaii Water Service. All of the lands that we own are in Hawaii Water Service Company's PUC area. And so they are our water service provider. One concept that we have been recently discussing is to look at redirecting water currently used for agriculture and other irrigation needs as a supply of water to serve Pu'uko'imauka. The infrastructure requirements for this concept are still to be determined, and we're in the process of compiling a draft application we'd like to submit to CWRM for that option. It's a little cumbersome because there isn't really a clear path on how that might be done, but we believe it should be submitted under a new use application because the uses are new, even though the source is existing. So in a way, it could be characterized just as a change of use. But I don't think CWRM has that option. We would be requesting also, if we move down that path, that we would have access to any reclaimed or reused water as soon as possible in order to replace that non-potable irrigation water in order to minimize the effects of our irrigation water on agriculture. KLMC, we'd like to request a meeting with CWRM. We're pretty far down the line in providing the background details for that application, and we will be requesting a meeting with CWRM to discuss that potential and to get their guidance on specific matters that we might have to address in that application because it is a little bit unique. We're hopeful that that application can be reviewed and processed as soon as practical. We know they have a heavy load and a lift on their hands with all the applications that they have in process. But what we are trying to do is come up with any possible alternative that would be able to provide water as soon as possible to be able to provide housing to the West Maui community. All that being said, I want to make sure I point out, because I think we would be remiss if we did not communicate that, as reflected in the annual report to the LUC, the most recent annual report, Pu'uko'i Village Mauka has had many challenges. The availability of potable water is simply the most recent challenge. And I think it's important for everybody to recognize that, the prior annual report, it wasn't an issue because at that point the area had not been designated. So the updates to this most recent report reflect new things that have happened since the prior report. And the biggest thing that changed for us happened to be the designation of the ground and surface water areas for the aquifer that our property sits in. We believe that if we could resolve this water issue and have some sort of clarity on the timing of that availability, we are ready to move forward as soon as we have that information. We have many builders that have expressed extreme interest, several that would like to build every house in the community as soon as possible. So we know that now there is a tremendous demand and there is a tremendous supply of builders willing to meet that demand. We have made ourselves available to all of these agencies at any time, both CWRM and LUC, and we'll do that at any point in the future, and we're here to answer any questions that you have today about the project. I will make myself available on Zoom. I've asked Jeff only because he's physically there. It may be easier for him to field some of those questions, but feel free. I'm going to stay on and you can ask me directly, or if Jeff prefers to defer to me, I'm available for that as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Prelow, you had additional testimony?
That was it. Thank you.
Were we going to hear from the water folks or not?
If there are questions.
So just a general question, it sounds like that is your go-to resource to get clarity on the process for getting this permit you're seeking. And you've gotten the information from them about the update on the practices and the communications from CWRM. I'd like to hear directly from them about what their experiences are and their interpretation of the situation that they currently face. Please state your name again, just for the record, before you testify.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Julian Gandara, Hawaii Water Service. Maybe could you maybe restate your question? I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. Or
So it has been represented by HHFDC that you're their go-to partner, my word partner, on the water issues for Malka development. And they feel that they are hamstrung and cannot proceed because of the uncertainty of a water permit. I'd like to hear from you about a characterization of that uncertainty that you have represented to HHFDC and the situation as you currently understand it.
sure. So what I can say is Hawaii Water Service also submitted existing use permits when CWRM designated the Lahaina sector as a managed aquifer area. Our applications are still pending before the commission. So from that perspective, there is I can see that there would be some uncertainty around that. I know that the commission has also encouraged new use permits to be filed, but again, the review of those.
Which commission are you referring to? There's like 8 of them in the room.
Yeah, for sure. The Commission on Water CWRM. We'll just say CWRM.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are reviewing both existing and new use permits, but the timing of the review is not clear. Right, so if a new use permit were to be submitted, the applicant wouldn't know when that new use would be reviewed and potentially approved. I know the CWRM is on the call as well. I don't know if they'd like to provide some background on that, but from our perspective, we submitted our application for existing use, and there has been no allocations awarded to us or anything like this.
Okay, so let me clarify what I think you said. So you have submitted applications for existing uses and those are still pending.
That's correct.
Have you submitted applications for new uses also?
We have not.
You have not, and why not?
We believe that it was existing was to come first, and that new use applications would be looked at later. So that was
Can you please identify yourself?
Jeff Folks, General Manager. So our understanding of the process was that to submit existing first, and that new use would be submitted at a later time.
And from where did you develop this understanding? How? Where? Who?
Well, I mean, there's not just in discussions with CWRM, and just there's not I don't have an official guidebook on the new use process, how they're going to look at that, but that's just our general understanding. So
So I think Ms. Prelo testified that somewhere in the last, perhaps since the progress report was submitted, there has been some clarification that new permits would be accepted and processed in parallel with existing permit applications. Did I get that correct?
I don't think the CWRM, and they can comment, but I don't think
they
ever said
they will be on a record.
Could not. I mean, I think they would accept the new use permit at any time. It was just our general understanding earlier on that they wouldn't necessarily be looking at those prior to existing use or in parallel. But now we're understanding that they would potentially be looking at those in parallel. That's just my understanding that we're coming about through this process.
Okay, so in summary, you've submitted existing use permits. Those are being processed at some pace.
Yes.
You've not submitted any new use permits with the perception or understanding that they would not be processed until the existing use permits have been completed. But there is now an understanding that they may look at new use in parallel with, and you're looking for guidance on that.
Correct.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes, correct.
Okay, commissioners, any questions on this point? Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Why wouldn't you just submit it anyway and get it in the QA, or you're just not ready because you're waiting on how the first one goes, the existing goes?
Yeah, I suppose that's just sort of waiting is the, when we did submit the initial existing uses, there were some potential uses that we submitted, but CWRM said, hey, pull those out of there. We want to know on the existing piece, what is currently, who customers you're currently serving. We have a process, right? So if someone comes to us for development, there's a process, hey, here's what we think our demand is. We go through our process and we could, if we have capacity to serve them, we could give them what's called a will serve letter, right? And then we track all that, right? So that we don't exceed what we're allowed to withdraw, right, or serve. But that was, the commission said when we submitted our existing use, they said, hey, don't include those commitments because you're not actually serving those customers. So we came back, we revised our existing use permits to pull those out. I'm not sure if this project was in that, because was this project in that originally?
No, this project was
State your name, please.
Julian Gandara. It was that Malco was not included in the original existing use permit. But
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Miyasato?
Thank you, Chair. Just to help me understand your perspective on your operation, are you affiliated with the county or private or semi-autonomous?
Yeah, so we're a water provider and we're regulated by the Public Utility Commission. So different to the county, we're investor owned, but we follow all the same regulations as far as serving the public. So we're
Okay.
regulated by the Department of Health and the Public Utilities Commission. Yeah, and obviously CWRM because they control the aquifers and manage the water resources. So yeah.
So you are a provider?
Yes. Yes, water and wastewater, but not wastewater here on Maui.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything further? So after we hear from the other parties, please stand by. We may come back to you with more questions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
What time is it? Time check. We'll continue. Just let me check with staff. Any update on Commissioner Carr-Smith? Okay. We'll now hear from the County of Maui.
Thank you, Chair. This is Andrew Nelson from a Department of the Corporation Council. We don't have anything additional to add at this time and are available for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the County of Maui? Hearing none, let us go to OPSD. Ms. Kato.
Allison Kato, Deputy Attorney General for OPSD. OPSD's inquiry to CWRM on the status of the new water use permit was based on the December 2024 annual report, because that stated that KLMC deferred further development work for Pu'ukuli'i Mauka until CWRM issuance of a new water use permit. So we inquired with CWRM and submitted that response to the LUC, and that's what prompted this meeting. And I'm gonna turn it over to the representatives from CWRM to explain their testimony.
They're on Zoom.
Yep.
So the representative from CWRM, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Good morning, Commission staff and members of the Commission. My name is Kira Kahahane, Deputy Director for the Commission on Water Resource Management. So as expressed in our testimony, we, to provide a little background, once a water management area is designated, any use of water within that area requires a water use permit, with very few exceptions. So the normal process is for existing and new water use applications to be submitted to the Commission, for the Commission to review those applications and act on those permits, finally issuing an allocation of water that meets the test laid out in both the Water Code and by the Hawaii Supreme Court in its various decisions. So, existing water use permit applications were due to the Commission on August 7th, 2023 for the newly designated Lahaina ground and surface water management areas. There is a distinction in the Water Code between existing and new uses. An existing use permit can only be granted for a use of water that actually exists when a water management area is designated. And so Mr. Folk's statement that that the Commission would not consider a will serve letter to be an existing use is correct. A project must actually exist on the date of designation and actually be using water in order to be considered an existing use. All other uses are new use applications. While there is a deadline for existing use applications, 1 year after the date that a designation becomes effective, there's no deadline for new use applications. So those can be submitted and will be accepted by the Commission on a rolling basis. Any change in the use of water, like the type of use, for example, from agricultural to municipal use, requires another permit application to be made under the Water Code. In addition, any change in the quantity of use, an increase in quantity, or a change in the place, the location where water is being used, also requires another permit application to be made. And those applications for permit modifications are assessed under the same standard as if they were an initial permit application. So as noted in our testimony, KLMC's applications were for diversified ag and irrigation. As has been clarified, Hawaii Water Service is anticipated to serve the project, and we have not received a new use permit from Hawaii Water Service. As far as the timeline for processing, we expect to clarify a framework for processing and triage of water use applications this year. And that will be accepted or approved by the Commission itself, which we expect to give some measure of greater certainty on the path forward. The timing for processing of these water use permits depends on the framework that we ultimately decide on and the way that we prioritize hydrologic units. All of West Maui at this point essentially has been designated as a water management area. So there's a need to triage these permits. We have proposed prioritizing Honokowai Aquifer among one of the first sets of permits to be processed, but whether that is actually the course we take remains to be decided and will be approved by the Commission. So we are happy to meet with Ka'anapali Land Management Corporation's leadership, and we appreciate their creative approach to these issues. I did want to speak very briefly on the use of the term process versus act on permit applications. So we will receive applications, review them, and address any mistakes that need to be corrected for all applications that we receive, whether they're new or existing. But we cannot approve new water use permits until all of the existing use permits that they might conflict with have been acted upon. And that is required of us, again, under the Water Code. So while we will look at new use applications, we will process them up into the point where action is required. The Commission is unable to make a final decision on new uses until we figure out how much water we're going to allocate to the existing uses. And as a final note, the the supply of water or the availability of water in the Honokowai Aquifer is uncertain at this point. We've seen indications that we are bumping up against the amount of available water, though we are conducting further study to determine if that's the case. And that is one reason that we do appreciate the creative approach to using existing water resources in a new way. So I'm available to answer any questions if you have further questions on the process.
So thank you for that. And please hold, we do have questions, but I want to apologize first to the other co-petitioner, which I skipped over. And so let me just double check from the other co-petitioner, if you have any testimony you'd like to put on record. Please state your name.
Stan Fujimoto, project manager. No, we have nothing additional to add. Thank you.
So your understanding of the situation is consistent with that of the other petitioner?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much. And let me apologize for skipping over you the first time. I didn't mean to. So commissioners, before we take questions, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Prelude. You said you wanted to hear from, and you may have questions directly to CWORM. So do you have any questions that you'd like to express to CWORM or to the state?
Thank you for that. No questions at this time.
So you expressed that you had uncertainty about should you submit a application for a new use? After hearing that testimony, do you still have uncertainty?
Diane, if I could chime in, possibly.
Please.
This is Margaret Genesee with Kanapali Land. I think that I don't have any specific questions. I think it would be great for us to have that meeting with CWORM to talk about our thoughts and ideas. But I think I still have uncertainty because as it was communicated, I think that they're still trying to figure out what the path forward is. CWORM, what that looks like, what that timing may be like. They can't act on new permits until they've acted on existing permits. So, for example, I have an existing use permit that includes our agricultural water uses that we've been using for many, many decades. I can't go in and, the way I see it, ask for a new use permit and duplicate something that I already have in an existing use permit. So yes, we still have a lot of questions. I think it would be best for those questions to be kind of brainstormed and directed at that meeting that, we should plan sooner than later. Because I think there are some, just legal nuances that none of us are on this side of the equation are terribly aware of, but I think some of that was answered today because the issue of not being able to act on new use permits until existing use permits have been acted on is what we understood, but have never really heard that directly. So that's super helpful. Thank you.
So thank you, Margaret. What I heard is a little bit of a conflict with that. What I heard from CWORM was that you could submit or file for a new use permit. They could not act on it, but they could theoretically evaluate it and move it forward up to the point of it being able to act on it until all of the existing were acted upon. That's what I heard. Did I hear that correctly from CWORM? Can you confirm that?
Yeah, Chair, that is correct.
So why wouldn't you file a new use permit and get it in the queue? That was a question that Commissioner Lee asked.
The reason is because we are very unsure about what that will do to our existing use permit. I do not want to give up that amount of water from an existing use permit without knowing the clarity. I'd rather get the existing use and then ask to change that use to something different, as opposed to not get the existing use because I'm asking for it to be a new use. I know that's cumbersome. I know it's complicated, but the system, the way it is today, and the way I understood it is you have two choices: new use, existing use. Existing use has to be acted upon first, then they'll act on new use. I don't know what my application should look like, and that's why that meeting is very important, because I don't know how I ask for a new use permit on something that I've already asked for an existing use permit. And we could try to clarify that today, but I think it may be more helpful to have that in a working session with CWRM directly.
CWRM, you want to respond to that?
Hello again, Deputy Director Kira Kahahane from CWRM. I tend to agree that it's probably better for us to meet offline and talk about these issues and how to handle. This is the first time that I've become aware of the problem with the existing use applications sort of overlapping with the intended new uses. So that is something that we should meet and chart a path forward on that.
I agree. I think what I heard from Margaret was that until a determination is made on the existing use permit, they can't really quantify or clarify exactly what to ask for in a new use permit. Is that correct, Margaret? Is that what you said?
Yes, because I don't know how much water they're going to give me, so I don't know how much water I can ask to move to a new use.
Commissioners, would you like to enter the fray and ask any questions at this point? Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think you answered a lot of questions, Madam Deputy Kahane, and appreciate you being here today. It sounds like there's sort of a fear from the uncertainty of how the process works. And so can you give us an idea of what the backlog is for your department on processing these requests? And also, is there a way to get some more clarity on what threshold needs to be passed before now you have to go back to the back of the line and reapply because you had changes in your new application?
Yes, Deputy Director Kira Kahahane, CWRM. Your first question as to the backlog, we have more than 100 water use permit applications pending with the Commission, and that represents thousands of individual parcels. As to your second question, the threshold for a change in use, we're operating based on what is set forward in the water code, which indicates that any change of use of a material nature or change of the place of use of water or use of a greater quantity of water allowed under an existing use permit would require modification of the permit terms. And so historically, the Commission has treated that as type of use, as being a material change in the use of water. So I provided the example of a change from agricultural or irrigation use to municipal use as drinking water or to serve other residential purposes. We would consider that to meet the threshold of requiring submission of a modification of the application.
This is Commissioner Lee again. So that would put that new application to the back of the line as a new application again then?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then one final question. I'm marginally familiar that there are certain priorities on how you make your decision on who gets the water. Can you kind of briefly go over that for us? The priorities?
Yes, there are public trust obligations and requirements that the Commission has, as do all state agencies. In the context of water, The four public trust uses that have been recognized by case law are maintenance of waters in their natural state, provision of water for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, provision of water for traditional and customary practices of Native Hawaiians, and domestic use. So those are the four public trust uses, as we often call them, of water. And when the agency makes a decision, it acts from the presumption in favor of the public trust uses of water. Not to say that it can't make a decision in favor of another type of use, for example, commercial use, but a higher degree of scrutiny is applied to requests for things like commercial use. So I hope that answers your question.
Commissioner Lee, thank you. So providing for housing would sort of be last among the priorities then, it sounds like.
Well, that could qualify as a domestic use of water.
Which is number 4, right? On what you had shown as your priorities.
That was the fourth one that I listed. There aren't any priorities among those four. They're considered on an even footing by the commission, but yes, it could be one of them.
Okay, so that was my understanding, that there's no one that's higher than the other. Those are 4 equal priorities. Is that correct?
That's correct. And they can be evaluated or weighed against each other on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you, Madam Deputy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Anybody else? Commissioner Uu.
Aloha. I just wanted to make some mentions. First of all, Deputy Director Kahani, thank you for stepping up to the plate in this huge task. And if I was to put my shoes in any developer's shoes, I would see the uncertainty because you could feel it, even in this room. When you hand in permits in 2023 and it's almost 2 years, and there's a process that's a huge task, massive task that you're undertaking. So kudos to CRM, but we got to be patient and wait. And as we all know, housing is needed, again. So I just congratulate you in doing your work. And, we're all looking for an answer. We're all looking for some type of movement in water, especially within the Lahaina area. In understanding that just managing land with the recent fires is an upfront cost that's needed. And a lot of people say, what have you put into your properties? What have you put into your lands? And right now, it's just managing lands to be up to date with the new rules coming out, whether through the fire marshal or through the county in the setbacks, the brush area. All that is cost that's going in daily as we wait. So I feel for you guys. I really do, because housing is needed. I feel for CRM, but I guess my question will be, if any, I know it's coming up, and something is coming up to the commission by the end of this year, and I just hoping that we get a glimmer of potential, what we could build. And I do understand waiting on your permit. I do that because we are waiting for the existing use, and there's many changes that could be happening. For instance, the municipal to ag or vice versa, right? She said when she gets the permits, it should be done correctly. And I will be apprehensive to submit a permit that could, be returned or not rejected, but to be redone. Yeah. So that's my manao. That's my 2 cents. Good luck to all of you. Good luck to Maui. Good luck to Lahaina for the rebuilding portion. And I think some of the water use, if I'm not mistaken, that could be done currently is the reuse of water for the people who lost their homes. They can rebuild and utilize the existing use. Am I correct?
I think that question was directed to Ms. Kahani.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Uu. Deputy Director Kira Kahahane again. That is correct. For existing homes in the burn area, especially for people who are rebuilding within that area, the County Department of Water Supply does have the flexibility within their existing use as of the date that applications were due, as of the date of designation, actually, to continue to serve those homes as they are rebuilt. And in addition, they are serving water to some of the temporary housing projects that have been constructed in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few more questions, but at this time, I'd like to take a break for, it's currently 10:36. We'll come back at 10:45 and let the record show that Commissioner Carr Smith has joined us. Thank you. Okay, it's 10:46, back on the record. So I think it would be really, this is my personal opinion, really beneficial for the petitioners and CWORM to dialogue directly and try to sort this stuff out to come to a common understanding. But let me see if I can summarize what I think is sources of confusion, at least in my mind. And so what I'm hearing is that a permit for an existing use has been filed and has not yet been acted upon. And until it is acted upon, which could potentially be a modification of the requested use, there is no incentive for the petitioner to file an application for a new use. Is that correct? I'm asking the petitioner.
Jeffrey Boogie, Kaanapali Land.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeffrey Boogie, Kaanapali Land. That is generally correct, yes. The existing use amounts, for one thing, is what would ultimately be approved would also drive and determine what might be available for new use. That's the other consideration. And we're talking water systems for potable water, which translates to infrastructure improvement. So that all needs to be defined once the new use, the source, and how to get it to Puklimaka. Those are a lot more planning and engineering work to get to that point.
So I think what you just said is if the existing use permit is acted upon, then you go into a planning and engineering mode to develop an application for a new use.
Jeffrey Boogie, Kaanapali Land, that is correct.
If the existing use permit is modified, in other words, they don't give you everything you ask for in the application, do you have to file a new existing permit before you can do a new, do you have to file a modified existing permit use? Or is that part of the new use?
That's part of the confusion, and what we intend to sort out with CWORM in an upcoming meeting. We have started at least thinking about the process that this will have to be characterized. Well, it has to be a new use application. There's only existing and new from what we understand, and it had been advised. So it would be a new use. However, the strategy here, because of the situation with the availability of groundwater, which was the premise of the designation in the first place, is that it would be challenging to just propose to develop a new source, a new well. So thinking beyond, like Margaret mentioned, the idea of really what would look to be like a change in use, redirecting irrigation non-potable water towards Hawaii Water Service as our water service, potable water service provider.
Okay, so that was my second point of confusion. If you get if the CWORM acts on the application that has been filed for an existing use, and you decide you want to do a change in that use, what is that? Is that another application for an existing use? Or is that part of the new use?
Jeff, let me jump in real quick. Margaret Genesee. I think, again, CWORM probably can answer this better, but what I heard, and this is why it's going to be so important to kind of have a chance to ask these questions, write the answers down, get some clarity. But I think I heard that if the existing use application is acted upon, that there's a possibility for a modification of that permit that would allow, just call it for the time being, different uses. Now, I don't know if I've characterized that right. It might be best for CWRM to clarify.
So let me ask that question, because that is my second point. And this is directed to Ms. Kahane from CWRM. If you act on the existing permit and then the permit or the developer or the landowner or the permit holder, whatever you call them, wants to modify those uses in that acted upon permit, what's the process for that?
So the process is laid out in the water code. If you want to look it up, it's 174C-57 for the lawyers in the room. And the thing that's key to remember is that modifications that cause a material change in use under the permit are treated as initial permit applications. So essentially it's treated like a new use permit application.
Yeah, that's different than what I thought Michelle said, or Margaret said. It basically, if you, let me state it back. I'm just trying to get clarity here so that everybody can go into your meetings with the same understanding. So if you act on the existing permit application and then the developer says we want to modify that in some way, that would constitute a new use application. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair. Yes, essentially.
So Margaret, does that answer your question?
It does essentially.
Okay. So, commissioners, any additional questions based on this conversation? Hearing none. Petitioners, any further comments you want to make at this time?
No, thank you.
Jeffrey Bugia, Kanapali Land. Margaret.
I said I had no comments, Jeff.
Thank you. Jeffrey Bugia, Kanapali Land. I just want to make it crystal clear that we do not have a new use permit for potable water before and that our existing use permits are for its existing use is non-potable, and that's what's before CWRM at this moment.
So are you planning an existing use potable application?
It wouldn't be an existing use.
You have no existing use for potable water?
Correct.
Okay, now I got a third point of confusion. Third point of confusion is why would and anybody can answer this that knows the answer, why would a new application for potable water, why couldn't it be filed now if it doesn't conflict with any existing potable water use?
I'll take a stab at that. Jeffrey Bugia, Kanapali Land. The conventional approach would be to just file a new use permit identifying a new source or the proposal to drill a well. Like I think Deputy Kahahani mentioned, in our case, the proposal to redirect non-potable water for potable use would have a material effect and conflict based on the existing use and your proposed new use.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to do another round of public testimony if there's no other comments by the parties. And then we're going to deliberate a little bit and see if we can bring this to some closure. That's the plan. So, Ms. Kwan, is there anybody signed up for a second round of public testimony?
Seeing none in the room, Chair, and none have used the Q&A feature on the Zoom to indicate they want to give testimony today.
Okay. So commissioners, this is a status report. We're not required to take any action at this time. And if no action is taken, the requirement of continued annual status reports will remain in effect. However, if the commission feels that its concerns have not been addressed based on the comments and responses provided by the the two co-petitioners, the chair will entertain a motion that either the petitioner status report has not sufficiently addressed the commission's concern and that further meetings or status updates are necessary to provide the opportunity to do so at future dates to be determined by LEC staff. Or that there is a reason to believe that the petitioner will not adhere to the conditions set forth in the DNO and request the staff to move forward with a formal show cause proceeding. Commissioners, any discussion? Who's that? Commissioner Miyasato.
Yeah, I apologize, Chair. When you asked if there was any further questions on the matter, I thought you were speaking in regards to water, so I just want to go back just a step.
Sure, you can ask any question you wish.
Yeah, at the previous meeting, the commission had concerns in a couple of other areas. Just real quickly, has there been any update on the bypass?
Jeffrey Bugio, Kaanapali Land. The answer is no. There seems to be some local government officials that have asked about and promoted the idea, but there doesn't seem to be any movement at the state level for the bypass to be constructed northward from where it is.
Okay, and the other area of concern at the previous meeting was any further negotiations on the triangle portion?
Yes, as I believe we've stated, the idea with the triangle, we were going to present and bring our development partner, the County of Maui Housing Agency, and an MOU was presented to them looking for a way to resolve the triangle piece as it sits. We have not yet gotten any feedback on the proposed agreement.
Okay, thank you. Chair, with that, I would say that this update was helpful for all parties in communication and opening up understanding on the water issues. I am satisfied with the status report, but would like continued updates. I make that motion.
Yeah, I'm not taking motions right now, but your comments are well received. Commissioners, any further discussion? So, I think as Commissioner Miyasato stated, this has been very helpful and informative, nonetheless confusing, but we understand why everyone's been confused on the water issues. I clearly heard both a request and an acknowledgement and a concurrence by Ms. Kahane that it makes sense for the representatives from the petitioners and representatives from CWORM to meet informally to try to get all of this discussed and questions answered and asked and answered with the intent to get a clear path forward for the development. So let me just ask for the record from the parties. Are you willing to meet directly, informally with CWORM for that purpose?
Jeffrey Bugio, Kaanapali Land. Absolutely, we will.
That's an absolutely. The other petitioner, would you be willing to meet on this issue if with them informally?
Yes, we would.
Thank you. Ms. Kahane, would you be willing to have representatives from CWORM, the appropriate right people, meet with them informally to help craft a pathway forward that everybody understands.
Yes, we would. I've already sent Mr. Rubugio an email, so we look
Very
forward
good.
to having that conversation.
Okay, so the commission will encourage that. We can't enforce it, but we would certainly take you at your word. So thank you very much for that. I also think that the information in your last progress report is not accurate. It's not updated, as you've said, to reflect what we heard here today. And I don't think this commission would like to wait another year or till next May for another progress report. So can I ask the petitioners if they would be willing to submit a interim progress report to the commission in writing after they meet with CWRM?
This is Margaret Genesee. I'll go ahead and chime in. We actually have a draft report that we worked on to clarify some of those items and also to add some additional information that's happened since the last report. So we will do that. It's, we were planning to submit that shortly, but I think that would be helpful to have that meeting with CWRM first if the commission will allow us to have that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, is have the meeting with CWRM and then provide immediately thereafter, 30 days thereafter or so.
Absolutely.
An updated report. And so I'm asking for your willingness to do that.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay. So commissioners, I will entertain a motion consistent with what we've just heard represented from the petitioners and from CWRM. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Chair, can I quickly ask a question, please?
Yes,
Before you go to
if it's for
motion?
clarity, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering, and I apologize for not being here, but I was wondering if the petitioner addressed the staff's questions and concerns about the total number of units that were planned and the percentage of affordable. Was that discussed?
It was clarified that there's 940 units and 51% are affordable.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Uud, our commissioner from Maui, to make a motion.
I guess the motion will be motion to accept.
So let me see if I could frame it for you and
Please do.
based on what I heard, if you don't mind, Commissioner Uud.
I don't mind that at all.
Okay, so we will accept your status report today as presented as being adequate, and we thank you for that. Secondly, we understand that the parties, which would include the two co-petitioners and CWRM, have agreed to meet informally to work out a pathway forward to resolve the water issues. And then following the completion of that, the petitioners will submit an updated progress report in writing to the commission within 30 days following that informal meeting. That's the essence of it.
Thank you. Like he said.
So moved. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Who was that? Mr. Miyasato, second. Any further discussion? Okay, since this is the first vote of the day, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Ordanker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to accept the status report as presented. The parties agreed to meet informally and petitioners will provide an updated status report subsequent to that meeting. Commissioner Uu,
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioners Yamane and Hayashida are absent. Commissioner Carr Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele. Commissioner Kamakeo, hello.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously with 7 votes.
Okay, let me thank the parties for coming forward on this matter today. We'll take a brief recess and allow everybody to shuffle. So thank you very much for coming. We will resume in 11:15. Okay, 11:15, back on the record. Commissioners are all in their seats and it's with staff, and that's all that's in the room. So my plan is to take the next two agenda items, which are the adoption of minutes and the tentative meeting schedule, then take a lunch break. And when we reconvene, may I ask the staff to redo the seating arrangement so we're talking among with each other for the last agenda item. So the next agenda item is the adoption of minutes from our meeting of May 7, 2025. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony submitted on the minutes?
No, Mr. Chair.
Or any members of the public who signed up to testify on the adoption of the minutes?
Seeing none in the Q&A feature, Chair.
Very good. Commissioners, are there any corrections or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our meeting of May 7th, 2025 as drafted and presented? Commissioner Wu,
I'll make the motion to accept.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any opposed, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are adopted. Okay, next agenda item is the tentative meeting schedule. Mr. Longacre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 18th of this month, we will be on Oahu at the Ko'olau Ballroom for the Hawaii Memorial Status Report. On July 9th, we are tentatively scheduled to be in Kona for the U of N Bencorp FEIS acceptance. And on August 6th, we'll be on Maui for Emmanuel Lutheran motion. And on September 24th, we will be on Oahu for the Gentry Properties motion. That is all we currently have scheduled on the calendar.
Okay. So the next LUC meeting, I understand, will be June 18th, 2025, and it'll be held in Oahu. I'd like to request that meals for this be provided as a working lunch as an integral part of the meeting due to its remote location at the Ko'olau Ballroom and the demanding time schedule to complete our work that day. Mr. Arndanker, would you have the LUC staff make the necessary arrangements for a working lunch, please?
We will do so, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Okay, so we're way ahead of schedule, but I'm going to call for a lunch break at this time for those of us here. It's 11:20 by my watch. I'm going to say that we'll come back at 12:30 or after lunch, since we cannot have any food on premises and the UH Maui campus cafeteria is closed. So we'll have to use cars to go find some food. Is that correct? Okay, so
Yes, Mr. Chair.
we will be recessed until 12:30. And at that time, when we resume, we'll be configured around the table so we can see each other. Thank you. We are adjourned, or we are recessed. Okay, it's 12:39 and we're back on the record. And next order of business will be the item 5 in our agenda. Item 5 is the Executive Officer Performance Evaluation for fiscal year 2025. That is from July 24 through June of 25. will now recognize written public testimony submitted in this matter. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony submitted on this matter?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've received 6 written testimonies on this matter, have all been posted to the website.
Thank you so much. So now I'd like to put a few things on record that I have shared previously with the commissioners. So first of all, I'd like to go over the process that we've been using and the results of that process, and just kind of set the stage for the discussion and other public testimony that might come forward. So consistent with how the commission has performed its performance evaluation of the executive officer, it's an annual process. It's a process that involves all 9 commissioners. It's a process by which we individually score the performance of the executive officer from 1 to 5, with 1 being does not meet expectations, 3 means he meets expectations, and 5 means that he exceeds expectations. The form that we used was modified this year versus what we've used in previous years, and that was done by DBED management. It was issued by the deputy director, and that's the form we used, and it added some clarification to individual subject areas, and it added a 9th criterion by which we would evaluate. So I personally facilitated the process by issuing that blank form to all commissioners and asking them to independently and individually fill it out, and basically put a score of 1 to 5 for each of the 9 categories that were in that form. And commissioners also had the opportunities, if they so choose, to add personal comments on the form as well about any particular evaluation criterion or in general. So I asked for and received, thank you very much, all completed forms, and then I attempted to compile the numerical scores. And I apologize, it took me, due to some minor errors that were pointed out by a couple of commissioners, it took me 3 iterations to get it right. But I think I got it right. And so the compiled evaluation form has, in addition to the math to do the numbers, it includes every commissioner's individual score in every individual category. So let me summarize briefly. I will summarize briefly what those scores were. Secondly, I did, again, I'm still talking process at this point. So for those commissioners who elected to put personal comments on that, I interpreted that they wanted those comments to share with the other commissioners. So I did share their personal forms with the other commissioners, so that they could read and ask questions about those specific comments if they so chose. Those commissioners who did not put any comments on their form, they only had numbers. Those numbers are represented 1 for 1 on the compilation document. So now I'm going to share for the record the results, but before I do, I want to confer with and ask Mr. Orendenker if he prefers for this next part of the meeting to occur in executive session, or if he accepts that we can proceed in public session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I accept that we can proceed in public.
Okay, so we'll proceed in public. So let me summarize for the public information that we can all use in our own way as we proceed with the evaluation. So I'm going to first read each of the 9, when I go through the 9 categories and the aggregate or average score that the 9 commissioners did for each. The first was job knowledge, and he got an average score of 4.22. And if you recall, 3.0 represents meets expectations. The second category was strategic planning and policy implementation, and he received an average score of 3.39. The third was public communication and transparency, and he received an average score of 3.17. The fourth was team leadership and development, and received a score of 3.71. The fifth was decision-making leadership and received a score of 3.28. The sixth was professionalism and received a score of 3.39. The next was commitment to the commission, and he received a score of 3.39. The eighth category was interagency coordination, and he received a score of 3.11. The last, the ninth, was organizational efficiency, 3.39. Final assessment average, I believe, was 3.42. In essence, he met the expectations in all 9 categories and overall. This has all been documented in what is called the compiled evaluation form, which was sent to you. And it's also been, that form, and only that compiled form, has been published on the website and all, along with our agenda. Again, consistent with keeping everything in the public form. Well, actually, that wasn't public. It's only in our checkpoint. Is that correct?
That is good.
Okay, it's only in our checkpoint, so it's not public.
If we want to make it public, I could post it public after this meeting.
Yeah, if the Attorney General does no issue with that, can I make it? Can the chair decide to make it public?
As long as the executive office consents.
Are you okay with making that public?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so let me ask that it be made public.
It will, Chair.
So that was my intent, even though it was in my note to you previously, even though it wasn't on that way. There was a, again, this is just FYI, but there is a subsequent email, in fact, 2 of them that I sent to everybody. I think it was 2 of them, maybe just 1. Let me double check. Yeah, I sent also to you a email on May 29th at 1:23, in which I referenced having sent you the compiled evaluation form, labeled second update 629. That's the one with no math errors. I also, because it was a problem, an issue, I won't call it a problem, we worked our way through it eventually. Last year, there was confusion about the allocation that might exist in the budget. Should we decide to make an adjustment to his salary and how all that works. So the budgetary salary, I'm going to paraphrase here, for the LUC that can offer currently is $164,208, which is his current salary. And that's what's currently stated in the budget for this year, next year, and future years. That's an artifact of the process. Now, effective July 1, 2025, bargaining unit 13 employees will receive a 2.12% across the board salary increase. In addition, employees who are eligible for a step movement or SRNA designated, of which our executive officer is and is eligible, could receive a lump sum payment of $2,000. That lump sum payment is a one-time payment. It would not be an adjustment to salary, but he is eligible for it. I wanted to confirm that the budget that has been developed by the legislature and the governor could accommodate or not annual salaries. And I'm going to read verbatim what I received from the deputy director of DBED. Since following up on your question regarding the fiscal year 2026 budget, I can confirm that the LUC should be able to fund a total of $5,481 for the executive officer's compensation adjustment should the commission approve the full amount. Budget worksheet details indicate an estimated fiscal year 2026 salary of $164,208 for Mr. Orndanker, position number 100982, which matches his current salary. Applying the 212 across the board increase results in a new salary of $167,689, representing a $3,481 increase. In addition, the $2,000 lump sum payment for bargaining unit 38 employees not eligible for step movement brings the total adjustment potential to $5,481. The impact to LUC's fiscal year 2026 payroll is summarized as $34.81 for annual salary adjustment, $2,000 one-time lump sum, total $54.81. Budget and finance typically provides a single lump sum appropriation to each department annually to cover the collective bargaining CBA adjustments. Once that allocation is confirmed, and my understanding has not yet done so, the DBED Administration Services Office will distribute the appropriate funding to cover all of these amounts to the attached agencies, including LUC. Okay. That's all background. The only additional background I have to share is that I did research the consumer price index change over the last 12 months for City and County of Honolulu, and it's 4.9%. I've also conferred research the HARO and University of Hawaii forecast for inflation for next fiscal year, and it is 3.9%. Okay, that's the background. With that, Ms. Kwong, has anyone indicated they'd like to do testimony at this time?
Seeing none in the room, Chair, and none have used the Q&A feature on the Zoom.
This is the second request I've made for public testimony.
That is correct.
Okay. Commissioners, would any of you like to make a comment? I'm not asking for motions at this time. I'm asking for comment or questions regarding what I've discussed.
I have several questions, Chair.
Sure. Mr. Kahele.
So what you just reported was currently the director's salary is $164,000 plus change.
Yeah.
The 2.1% would give them $3,081.
It was 34 or something.
Oh, 34.
3481 additional.
3481.
And that would carry forward to future years.
So the step up of that $2,000 is that what all of the unit 13 employees had received, or was that just one option?
It's only the 13 employees that are not eligible for step movement. They receive, so like if they're at the top of their step, my understanding is they're not eligible for progression increases. They're also eligible for a one-time, not adjustment to salary, but a one-time, think of it as the bonus. 10,000. I don't know the answer. Does anybody know the answer? It's 2.12%.
Yeah, that was part of the collective bargaining. Oh, okay, all right, so that was agreed upon after contract negotiations. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions on process or background?
Question. So there's a question.
Okay.
The 2.12%, so oh, sorry. So anytime there's a step increase or an increase of, like, for instance, the 2.12 across the board, that affects every employee.
No, it affects the bargaining unit, 13 employees.
So is he part of the bargaining unit?
He is not.
He is not bargaining. Okay.
But it's been used historically as a guideline.
It's a measure, right?
As a guideline.
Okay. So say we were to adopt the 2.12 across the board, even with director. Is there other beginnings of raise steps that he might get, which is not included within the bargaining unit at times?
No, I think the way it works, Commissioner Wu, is that it's uniquely up to this commission to control his salary.
Okay.
So we use that as a reference, but we make the decisions, and that my understanding is that there's no other entity within the state or any other commission, like DBED can do it. It's up to the way his employment agreement reads. It's up to us.
Okay, got it. So that's have you guys received a 2.12 raise increase?
This is for next year.
Oh, next year. Oh, yeah, the following. So you
July
to
1st.
receive that too.
July 1st, our bargaining units will have an increase, yes.
Good to know.
And last year that you received 3.59, I think it was.
I don't know the exact percentage, but we all received an increase last July, and we're gonna get a new one this for our union contract.
And then for me, it's just looking at fairness, right? I mean, if everyone gets the same percentage step increase or increase, what have you, I'm fine with that too. Just to make it fair across the board, because cost of living go up for everybody equally. Yeah, you know how that goes, right? So it goes. That's my money.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Anybody else?
I just wanted to add, but unless anyone else got any concerns.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Go ahead.
Chair. I just wanted to add, what Bruce just stated, sort of like looking at parity, if the man's evaluation was above average, and, I'm looking at the testimony that came from his staff. I mean, I believe we made a motion in our last meeting. Hey, you know what? You guys don't need to submit any testimony or evaluation on Dan's performance, but they did anyway. And I was kind of surprised because they didn't need to. We even had retirees submitting a letter or an email complimenting Dan of great of a job he was doing. So I don't know if anybody else got any questions or concerns, but we need to make a motion that we increase Dan's pay by 2.1%, and in addition.
So hold up a second. I'm not calling for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to call it
Commissioner Carr Smith.
I'm sorry. Next month.
Since you expressed
should I decline it?
I will call on you at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Looking at my flight. Thanks.
Thank you.
That you wanted to make.
I just had
Had
a question for some clarification. A couple of the questions in the form talked about aligning commission operations with statewide planning framework and statutory mandates. And I'm not sure I understand what that means. Could you explain, Dan, what that means?
That's just a general statement. Department of Business and Economic Development has been identified as the primary agency for the movement of housing under the governor's initiative. And so we have, the Land Use Commission, myself included, has been participating in discussions with the deputy director and deputy director with regard to simply trying to move housing as quickly as possible. That's the the intent of that area, I believe. And
It's very general, so
Yeah,
I just was wondering what your interpretation was.
that's my interpretation, is
Yeah.
that the governor's policy that impacts the land use commission most directly is the one with regard to housing. So, we're doing the best we can to move projects forward as quickly as we can. And that's one of the reasons for having Arnold's bonds position, so that he can figure out how we can move housing forward more rapidly.
Okay. What bargaining unit is the staff?
The staff is bargaining unit 13, professional staff.
That's the same one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if it was different. And do the staff have those step up potential?
Yes, the staff has the potential every few years for a step increase. It has to do with length of service and their record with regard to, I have to do evaluations for staff. So as long as their evaluations meets expectations or higher, they're entitled to that step increase.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of the same mind as Bruce in terms of wanting to make sure that especially the girls, are fairly paid. And I don't know whether there's any other way to assure that within our budget.
Well, it's not a budget issue, it's a union issue. I cannot unilaterally adjust salaries. I do everything I can to try and work within the system to make sure everybody's getting the maximum amount that I can possibly figure out.
Yeah.
But I run up against a wall at a certain point. I think all of my staff deserve big raises, but I can't give them to them, and I can't give them any bonuses or anything like that. It's against state policy. I am working with at least one of the staff members to increase their salary via a temporary assignment to a higher level, and that's what I can do. But that's about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me add to that. And this is kind of a refresh based on the research we did last year to get clarity on what authorization the commission itself has in this arena. So we are authorized almost independently. We can take guidance from DBED, but we are authorized almost independently to hire an executive officer and to develop an employment agreement to support that. Beyond that, it's up to the executive officer to design a plan for the staff he needs and the talents he needs and the expertise that he needs, and then justify that independent, not to us, but to DBED, and build it into the budget for the state. So we're kind of like, on the one hand, given this incredible authority, but it's limited to just executive office.
Sure. Yeah, and I understand that. I think just in my mind, just since we're evaluating Dan, I thought that it's maybe good for him to know if the commission encourages as much as support as possible to the staff.
Yeah, and I would welcome
whatever that's worth. It would be worth nothing.
Yeah, I would welcome that. I echo it. I think that, I've said this many times over the last 5 years, that we're here as volunteers, as commissioners, and our job is made possible, not easier only, but possible because of the quality of work that our staff does in preparing us for our work. So we're the decision makers, but they do the work and prepare us to make those decisions. And I echo your sentiments, Commissioner Carr-Smith, that we are fortunate to have a staff, even though it's been undermanned at times over the last couple of years, hasn't been full, all the positions haven't been filled, but I think they prepare us well, and I compliment each and every one of the staff for the role they play under.
So I think I just have two other comments. One of them was from Dan's self-evaluation about extremely technology forward.
And I know I've heard over the last year and a half or 2 years, whatever it's been since I've been here, that there's sometimes tech issues. Are there things, and again, this is not in our control, I understand that, but are there things that could improve the technology for the commission?
Short answer to that is the short answer to that is yes. We are looking at a lot of those technologies, mostly to do with how to make these meetings more technologically forward and how to deliver information to the commissioners more technologically forward. Just as a matter of history, we were the first agency or commissioners to issue iPads. We were the first one. Scott actually drafted a template for the website that was done before the state had put it together, and they actually used our web template as for everybody. We're always trying to be out in front of everything. The roadblock that we run into is that we're trying to move everything to use cartoon analogies to the Jetsons, and our IT staff is not our WC, but DBED's IT staff is the Flintstones.
Well, you forgot one pretty important accomplishment. We were the first agency and the only agency for a period of months that conducted its meetings via Zoom during the pandemic.
Yes.
And that became the model for statewide implementation.
Yeah.
Is that right? So, and you look around this room and you just look at the cameras and the communications and the upgrades that have been made just over the last 2 years. So again, that's where I think the technology piece is. Okay, do you have another one?
Yeah, I just had one last thought, and that I think that it would be good to have goals from you. Most jobs are graded and evaluated on goals and whether they're accomplished or not. My brain wants to go there. Like, let's set some goals and, try to attain. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
There's actually some history on that. When I first started, I asked for goals. Years ago, Kyle Chop was then chair. What happened was that we set goals, but because we only operate based on what's submitted, I didn't have enough control over the output to meet those goals. I'm not adverse to goals. Like I said, originally I asked for them, but I'm not sure how to phrase them at this point so that they're actually in my control.
So is that something that we should maybe talk about at some point and see?
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little disappointed that the other staff are not going to be able to get the $2,000 bonus since they have step movements. Is the senior planner or is there anyone else who will get the $2,000 bonus besides the executive officer?
Actually, I believe almost all the staff is eligible for the 2,000 because Scott's capped out. Ariana is not scheduled for a step increase, and Martina is not either. So, and then office staff, Fred Talon, our GIS specialist, might be the only one who's eligible for a step increase, but I don't think anybody else is.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
So if you're not eligible for a step increase, you are eligible for the one-time.
The $2,000.
Yeah, and I don't believe that in the 3-year CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, I don't think there's another incidence in this current agreement for another bonus. So it's a one just for the first year because of various reasons. The other comment I would like to make is, sometimes I guess the executive officer, he has a very tough job. very different from maybe some other departments. And I think when there's a new governor, policies evolve and change. And so, board members change. And fair or unfair, I think I've said this before, the executive officer gets painted, as the face of the organization with the blame or the credit, whatever it might be. And so I try to keep that in mind. I've wanted to see different changes and things, and I think the process this year has improved over previous years. I think thanks to a lot of input and just improvement on refining the process, which I think is good. And I'm looking forward to seeing the policy cooperation evolve and work better. I think it will. I think we're getting to know each other. And Dan has a lot of skills that, would be difficult to replace. So
I'm easy to replace, but you're talking about him. Right?
yeah, well, I should clarify that, but yes, thank you for just clarifying that.
I'm easy.
So, we're glad to have the experience, not just of the executive officer, but also the rest of the staff, include Scott and the women as well. I want to keep in mind, because I've worked in both labor and management, half the time as labor and half the time as management. So in my mind, every worker is due a raise, and they should get what they deserve. And then on the management side, I know that we have sort of a fiduciary responsibility to steward the taxpayers' money as well. And, it's a unique situation. Normally you do comparables with other agencies. And I think that the LUC's executive officers pay scale is on probably the high end of other comparable agencies. So
let me interrupt you just on that point, because I've heard that comment made many times over the last year. There's never been any evidence of what the actual numbers are, and I've asked for that for across agencies.
Well, I actually have the evidence because I looked it up.
You ought to bring it out and present it rather than just refer to it as hearsay in my mind. So
it's not hearsay. Anyone can look it up themselves on Civil Beat, but
it's not on the record here. So to suggest without the evidence being on the record, I don't want to characterize stands as being low, high, medium. I mean, it's like
it's not to be finished, please.
To me, the question before us is whether, relative to his compensation level, if this commission wants to make an adjustment or not. It's not relative to any other commission or any other director.
Well, I would disagree with that. You can disagree all you want.
If another commissioner wants to make a comment that they feel differently than that, they should be able to do that.
I don't allow him to do that, but I don't. A comment references data that's not in existence. It has to be characterized as such in my mind. I owe it for
just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it's not in
I'm on the record here. Bring it. Research. I publicized it and I shared it with each of you. Now you can look at those numbers in reality and deal with them however you want. But I'm going to take opposition to saying, well, somebody somewhere else in government makes more or less money, so we ought to adjust him accordingly based on that. I have no knowledge of it. It's not relevant in my mind. Now you can disagree with me, Mr. Lee.
Okay, so if I may finish, and I wasn't really going to make this a point, but since you made it a point, I will have to bring it up then, since you're casting doubt on my statement. Which I was just going to make a general statement. I'm not saying this stuff without looking it up, but I mean, his pay is comparable, and I can give you dollars and cents if you need to with OPSD, with the deputy director of DBED, with HHFDC, with HCDA, CWORM, and I don't feel the need to get into the details, but I will absolutely do it if you doubt me, because anyone can look this up themselves. So my statement is true, even if you're not aware of it. I wasn't going to make this a point. I was just making a statement which you know, I wasn't going to get into detail about it, but what the point I was trying to make is that our executive director is well paid in compared to budget staffing in comparison to other departments under DBED, which is, you know, that's one thing, that's one criteria, not the only criteria. And so I don't have a problem with the raise and the bonus. I just want us to be aware of this. And, you know, I'm not going to debate. If you guys want to ask me about it later, I'll be glad to share the information. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Anybody else?
2 cents, just two. And then nothing about the point where you guys was discussing, totally separate, right? I know we're short staff everywhere, where it's state, county, right? And my biggest thing is we should be working on retention, especially when you got good staff. So I think sometimes we miss the point about, you know, hiring. I think we forget that retention is huge and huge. We don't want to lose anyone, period, because just hiring them is difficult. As we saw what happened to the police. I mean, Maui at one time, even right now, I think we short 70 plus commissioners. So that's the part, right? I think the emphasis and the focus, it should be keeping our current employees happy. And it seems like Dan is doing that job. So kudos to you on that part then. So kudos to your workers here who put up the effort for coming to Maui, setting this up. It's not an easy task. And again, hearing what is done, you guys done over the course of time to COVID and now, again, kudos to you guys. That's all. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Commissioner. I totally agree with you.
Aloha.
Anybody else want to comment before I entertain a motion? I'm going to entertain a motion, Commissioner Kahele.
You know, I'm gonna make a motion that we increase the director's pay by 2.5%. And if he's entitled to the step up, I believe that $2,000, then I don't think we need a separate motion, but I also want to include that.
So is that 2.5%, which exceeds the bargaining unit by 0.38, bargaining unit 2.12.
I'm sorry, did I say 2.5?
You did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm basing it on COLA. The COLA is 2.5, 2.1%.
2.12 is the number.
And that's the number. I got 2.1.
Okay, the motion is to adjust the annual salary by 2.12%, consistent with bargaining unit 13 for next fiscal year.
Yes.
In addition to that, to include the one-time bonus of $2,000. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Carr Smith. You want to say why you support that?
No, it's, you know, I'm the oldest timer here. I mean, I shouldn't say oldest, I should say the most senior guy here. And I've seen all the changes.
You're the oldest, maybe. I don't think so.
I think Dan is, not you, Dan Arndecker. But I've seen all the changes. I remember when we used to come up to the outside islands and we used to, Ariana and Scott, they used to load stuff in boxes, big container boxes, bigger than they was hauling things to and from the outside island back to Honolulu. And I've seen all these modern day equipment, you know, with microphones, with the speakers, and it's been a big change. It's been a big change since I've started. And I gotta say, you know, I've seen people come, I've seen people go. I'll be next, you know, who knows whether the governor gonna reappoint me, but it was tough. It was tough. And I know Dan picked up a lot of crap when we had more attorneys sitting on the commission. And it used to get more hostile than it is now. In fact, today is not it. Brother Brian, Commissioner Brian, just gonna, you know, he's gonna give his 2 cents, whether we like it or not. But you know, that's Brian. He wants the details. Commissioner Nancy always wants more information, and we're gonna live with that. But how I look at things is, if the man deserves a pay raise and the unit have already negotiated that increases, I don't believe we should deprive anybody. We and most of us here We all come from the House of Labor, and that's what we fight for. You know, we fight for people's lives to be improved, whether it's through wages, whether it's through benefits, and working conditions. That's our life. I've been involved in it for almost 50 years. And I'm going to step up and make a comment and oppose if I feel that the numbers are too much or too little. I mean, I'll always be that way. I've always done it throughout my whole life. So I think, with the strong relationship that Dan has with his staff, I was actually going to make another motion, but I know Dan makes, he asked for the motion, but, I was actually going to ask whether it was okay to add maybe another year to Dan's contract and keep the continuity and the relationship to continue until some of you guys or some of the other commissioners term out. Unless you guys got one problem with that, and unless we need Dan to make a motion or state one motion, I want to add that into. So I just wanted to make that statement. I don't believe anybody should be deprived of what they're entitled to.
Okay, so thank you for your statement. I think you also said you want to make an amendment to include a extension of 1 year. I'm not sure or not.
Yeah, well,
Is that what you want to do?
yeah, well, I didn't want to get, schooled in the chair and saying, hey, I'm the guy that makes the motions, so, so I was looking at it, whether it's legally possible. As a Yeah, that's what I thought. So, on the matter of your second point, which is whether or not we can amend the employment agreement, that was not agendized as such. Yes.
So I'm going to, so the agenda, when will the agenda be finalized for the meeting on June 18th?
It will be finalized this Friday.
Okay, so we can agendize, add on an agenda item on that meeting to see if we want to make any changes to the employment agreement. But we cannot do it today. So your motion is limited to just the today, Commissioner Kiley, to just the 2.12 plus the 2,000, which you have spoken to. Is that okay? Yeah, I'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, if you was to look at the agenda, I'm basically looking at the agenda, the commissioner's evaluation of executive officers' performance for fiscal year 2025. So that would only limit it to what.
Yeah. So I just asked the attorney
that motion that's currently on the floor regarding the 12.1%.
Yeah, that's totally cool. I just asked the Attorney General just advised that if we want to take any other term that's in the agreement, we have to agendize the agreement itself so that the public can
Thank you, Chair.
in on it. Right.
Thank you, Miranda.
Okay, thank you.
Keep you out of trouble.
Commissioner Carr Smith, do you want to speak to your second of the original motion?
Yes, I seconded the motion because I support Dan to move forward through another year, and support you getting your normal raise. But now I'm confused because the agenda doesn't say take action either. So.
This is Bagsteed. So you're evaluating his performance. His evaluation would probably be about salary increase for the next year. That's the purpose of it. His contract goes through 2027, so you're not evaluating whether to continue employment with him. You're just evaluating his performance over the past fiscal year and how to adjust his salary accordingly. So you're fine to do a salary increase. It's just for any contract questions, because it's not on there. It's best if you do that at the next meeting when it can be agendized and people have an opportunity to comment.
Okay, because if that would have been added, I would have withdrawn my second for the same reason I did a year ago. I don't think the contract should be extended into the future beyond
Yeah, the chair is has said he'll agendize that, so you can have that discussion at the next meeting. So for now, it's just that the motion is for the 2.12%.
Yeah, so we will agendize an item for discussion and action to review the employment agreement and any changes we want to make to it.
I have a question. If that's gonna be done in our next meeting, would the evaluations and the performance, the grading performance chart is gonna be also included in our packet?
We decide that today.
Okay, so, but, to decide whether we're gonna extend his contract, I would think they would have a reason, right?
Yeah, but we have to discuss it.
All right,
In 2 weeks.
all right, thank you.
So please show up.
I'm gonna be here, Dan.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to the motion? Okay, I will support it as well. So let's have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to increase executive officer's salary by 2.12% and a step up and a one-time payment of $2,000.
That's effective
July 1.
25.
Yeah. Commissioner Kahele. Commissioner Carsmith.
Aye.
Commissioners Hayashida and Imane are absent. Commissioner Lee. Aye. Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Ulu.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Hill.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously with 7 votes.
Thank you. Yeah, that concludes our meeting. Thank you for your time. This meeting is adjourned.